Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday to you, April 4th, 2025. I have all of your stories for your rush hour ride to work, and boy, are we going to mail it in for you today. Now, not me, you. You guys mail it in. You worked hard this week. It's Friday. Just cruise control. Keep your sunglasses on indoors. Put some Baileys in your iced coffee. I don't care what you do. It's not up to me, right? Live your life. And we've got a tortoise that is a new mom, 97 years old. I'll be discussing that in this morning's episode, along with a space crew getting called out by Olivia Munn for their frivolous flying. Also, Bachelorette Gabby Windey discusses why The Bachelor is her favorite franchise to have performed on. And Justin Baldoni, the big response by Justin Baldoni We'll talk about it. He responds to Blake Lively's motion to dismiss. We've waited 2 weeks for this to come in, and it delivers. And also why Blake's PR is so bad. There's going to be ongoing sort of conversation around what can she do to turn the story around. I don't know if there's anything. And speaking of turning the story around, can we turn the stock market around? Tariff Talk will discuss several different prominent Republicans blasting the global tariffs that exist now. And how did they even get to these numbers? Did they pull them out of someone's butt? I'll have a formula for you. It'll leave your head shaking. All these stories and more coming out right now on The Rush. Now listen, I don't want to be like a reality TV guy where that's all I watch, but there's some good reality TV out there. They don't pay me to tell you this, but this weekend, binge $1 Million Secret. I've only watched the first few episodes. I love it. I love the characters. Essentially, a dozen people are all staying at this sort of lakefront resort, and one of them has $1 million, and they have to find out who it is. It's a good one. I like it so far. It's on Netflix. That's my sort of recommendation for your weekend binge. And let's get into this story here. Oh boy, that's right. Turtle Power, a 97-year-old tortoise named Mommy, just became a mom for the first time. Have a listen to this.
Finally tonight here, the first-time mom at 97, and one of her babies right here at the team at the Philadelphia Zoo, America Strong. Tonight at the Philadelphia Zoo, a new incredible world record. A first-time mom at 97 years old and her babies. 4 critically endangered Western Santa Cruz Galapagos tortoise hatchlings have just hatched. Less than 50 are known to exist in America.
Hi, David.
All right, so there they are. So she's got her, this is like the Ninja Turtle origin story. By the way, no mention of the father. Wait, who fathered these tortoises? Who's banging a 97-year-old tortoise? I don't know. Maybe that's standard. I don't understand how it works out. The geriatric tortoise community, not familiar. Although I must say, I'm sure I'm going to have an expert tortoise person out there get in touch with me. Speaking of which, I have interviewed an octopus expert after last week's fascination with an octopus riding a mako shark. So you'll get that interview tomorrow. It will deliver. It's a great conversation. But between all this tortoise talk and octopus, I tell you, we've got a lot of. I mean, look, if we can't all be unified over some Nat Geo stories, what can we discuss, right, in this highly politicized world? Justice for these tortoises. And by the way, I mean, how old do these things live? You know what I mean? 97 years old. Oh, boy, that just seems like such a commitment. I don't want to get a gerbil, let alone, a 100-year commitment. That's a lot. All right, well, here we have a very interesting moment with Olivia Munn. She discusses the Blue Origin crew that is all female going to space. Now, I criticized it, not because it's an all-female crew, but it just seems like a stupid waste of money. And here we have Olivia Munn. And by the way, that's Jeff Bezos for you, right? That's what you get, a billionaire. You get to buy TikTok, and you get to shoot a bunch of people into space. But here's what Olivia Munn has to say on Jenna and Friends on the Today Show. Have a listen to this.
Yeah, I don't. And I have a little bit of a issue isn't the right word. You're just perplexed. I just was like, what do you guys need to? And if you want to go to space, why do you need to tell us about it?
Yeah.
And it's like, just go up there, have a good time, come on down. Also, I just think about, I know this is probably obnoxious, but it's so much money to go to space.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's a lot of people who can't even afford eggs.
There it is. People can't afford eggs. And that's kind of the biggest problem, right? Is like Elon Musk, this whole idea about space exploration and all this. It's like, well, before we go to Mars, let's get some clean energy and clean water, maybe here in Detroit, Michigan. I don't know, just a thought, right? Just a thought. Let's kind of clean things up here before we shoot people off into space in these dick-shaped rocket ships. I don't know, maybe. Either way, there we have it there. Jenna Bush, of course, our favorite Nepo baby here from the Bush family. Boy, they got out of that with good PR, right? You start a war, next thing you know, your daughter gets a Today Show spot. All right, she's lovely. What can you do? All right, well, let's get into it. Why don't we? Let's just get right into it. We're going to discuss, actually, I feel like I'm missing something. Before we get into Justin Baldoni, let's do this. Gabby Windey, I wanted to discuss her before Justin Baldoni. Here she is with her sunglasses on inside, which I did recommend people do today. Although when Gabby does it, I don't know, there's something alarming to me when you can't see somebody's eyes. I don't trust that. Either way, here she is revealing why she enjoys the Bachelor franchise and how they treat her.
I would do it for the accommodations alone. First class, great champagne, penthouse. The Bachelor treated is the one show that I've been on that has treated us really like stars, like the full thing. Yes, like trailers, glam every day, great accommodations. Yeah, so leaving that, I'm like, what is this?
Right.
I'm like,
There it is. So she loves being the lead on The Bachelor, which is good, She was very lucky, Gabby Windey, that she didn't get a bad edit. She kind of was able to skate through, kind of like a Tyler Cameron, like just get out alive. That's all you can ask for. If you stay on the show any longer, they'll find a reason to hate you. So anyway, let's move it on. Let's go to Justin Baldoni, Freeform Friday morning. This came in late last night. Justin Baldoni to Blake Lively. No way is this over. The First Amendment says so. That's right. Justin Baldoni is responding to Blake Lively's attempt to get out of this. She had her motion to dismiss their hundreds of millions of dollar trials. Now, Justin Baldoni did not file a motion to dismiss. He says, I don't want to dismiss this. I want to prove my innocence in court. And that's kind of been his sort of belief here, is that the public needs to know what happened. We don't need to solve this behind closed doors. Well, he's clapping back at Blake Lively's attempt to get his lawsuit against her tossed out of court, while once again accusing her of trying to destroy his career. So I'm going to read this in its entirety on a live stream today around 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. So make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel for that. Right now, I'll give you a teaser. How about that? The introduction, and again, this is just Justin Baldoni's side saying, here's why we think this thing needs to go to trial. The first amended complaint contains hundreds of pages rife with factual detail about Lively's calculated efforts, first to extort and manipulate the Wayfair parties into ceding total control over the film It Ends With Us, and then to defame and scapegoat them when her plan backfired. Nonetheless, Lively refused to accept responsibility for the trail of untold destruction she left in her wake. But she goes further still. Lively asked this court not only to dismiss the complaint, but also to award her attorney's fees, costs, and treble and punitive damages for the Wayfair party's constitutionally protected act of petitioning the court for redress of their grievances. In essence, Lively asked the court to find that she is immune from any culpability for her wrongful acts, and instead it is the Wayfair parties who must be punished for daring to exercise their constitutional right to seek a remedy from the court for her lies. The motion must be denied. Yeah, her claim is, well, he only filed a lawsuit to retaliate against my complaint. And it's like, well, yeah, if someone has a false accusation against you, aren't you allowed to have a responding lawsuit? So the bill keeps getting racked up here. And up next, I'm going to share that they're actually responding to how Blake Lively committed defamation, not just through her agents and not just through her conversations with Ryan Reynolds, but the statements she made herself. I'll read this part next. And by the way, I don't have a method to my madness here, but I try to find out how I cover this case, right? I talk about it on the morning rush, I talk about it on the afternoon rush, but sometimes these court documents take so much more time to get through. Like, this is going to be a solid hour live stream just to fly through this. So I tell you what, I'm just giving you a little bit of that tea right now. I'm tickling the balls, as it were. And then if you guys want the full story, you'll get it. I know it's kind of, there's a little bit of fatigue covering this this case because there's a lot of, redundancies here when it comes to like relitigating what went down, and they're not, but I'll tell you what, when this thing goes to trial, if it does, when those depositions hit, when people are taking the stand, it is going to be super interesting. So here's Baldoni's claim. They say Lively made defamatory statements herself, separate and apart from the actions of her agents. Lively made defamatory statements about the Wayfair parties in her individual capacity. Specifically, the complaint alleges that Lively told the New York Times that the Wayfair parties engaged in, permitted, and or failed to prevent sexual misconduct and orchestrated a smear campaign in retaliation for Lively's purportedly protected disclosure. Thereof. Lively also falsely claimed to the New York Times that the Wayfair party's agreement to the 17-point letter was proof positive that sexual harassment was endemic on the film set, and that the Wayfair parties had responded to Lively's complaints about purported sexual harassment by plotting to destroy her reputation. In short, Lively told the New York Times a false and damning story about an insidious PR sabotage operation deployed as revenge for sexual harassment complaints. With the knowledge and intent that the newspaper would publish that false story, the fabrications made by Lively are further detailed below and exhaustively outlined in the complaint. All right, we'll get to all of that. We'll read it all for you. That'll be your next video. I've also got other content. It's busy out there. Blake Lively, we're just going to blow through it right now. Blake Lively did that donut shop PR and didn't have her hair pulled back. Now, as it turns out, there are complaints filed against that donut shop company. How do I feel about this? Mixed feelings. It's like, did the donut shop company do anything wrong? They're going to be the ones that, that this hurts them more than anybody. But either way, the rules are the rules. So I'll have that video for you this morning as well. All right, so let's move into some really interesting stuff, that being the tariff talks. A couple days ago, they called it Liberation Day reciprocal tariffs. Now, reciprocal means you do this to me, I do this back to you, right? But that's not exactly what it was. So they call them reciprocal tariffs. But when you look at the numbers on some of these countries, it's out of control. 97% on Cambodia, 90% on Vietnam. I mean, these are some of the biggest trading partners that we have, right? So much clothing and textile stuff comes from some of these countries, and you're looking at it like 93% in Madagascar. How did they reach these numbers? And this is shared by the White House. And of course, readers added context saying Trump's reciprocal tariffs aren't based on actual foreign tariffs. Like China is 7.3%, the European Union 5.2%, but likely on the U.S. trade deficit divided by imports. So there's a working theory that Trump may have come up with these tariff reciprocal numbers based on a ChatGPT formula. I'll get into more of that in a second, but here's what Donald Trump had to say after the stock market took an insane dive as soon as these tariffs were announced.
First, we'd love to get your reaction, sir, to what's going on in the financial markets today.
Well, I mean, it's to be expected. This is a patient that was very sick. We really inherited a terrible economy, as you know, with a lot of problems, including loss of manufacturing.
So then he goes into how, all of the jobs have gone away. And, he's not wrong to say it'd be nice to bring jobs back to the U.S. Absolutely. But the economy was rip-roaring. I mean, I'm going to share with you 3 or 4 different prominent Republicans and what they have to say about this. Because, inevitably you get accused of having Trump derangement syndrome and whatnot. And it's like, well, you can't even argue with that if that's what you want to say. But first, I want to share what Kamala Harris had to say would happen if Trump gets his way. And that is, his tax cuts, which are going to add $4.5 trillion to our nation's deficit, which is not our debt, I should say. So anyway, here's what she has to say at their presidential debate.
Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession.
And as they're showing now, it looks like there may be a recession. The odds of the recession are spiking, actually. I think they were at 40% before, and now they're saying that the odds are going to be up to 60% of a recession this year if these tariffs actually happen as they are promised.
Quick on the trigger to make changes like that. JP Morgan upping its recession odds to 60% from 40% previously, citing obviously the tariffs, the effect on business sentiment, the effect on investment, and the effect on and on consumer prices. They said, quote, these policies, if sustained, would likely push the U.S. and possibly global economy into recession this year. And if I could shift gears, Melissa, we just got an email from, or a study from the Cato Institute. What they did is they looked at the tariffs that the White House says countries charged us versus the actual tariffs they charged. Take a look. Vietnam, they said that President Trump said it's 90%. It's actually 5.1%.
So, of course, as I just said, these numbers, they're just so far off. So people are looking at this absolutely befuddled, saying, how could they let this happen? And I'll get into some more of that in a second. Here's Rand Paul, Republican from Kentucky. Here's what he has to say about these tariffs.
This goes against the traditions of our country. I stand to speak against these tariffs. I stand to speak against these emergencies. I stand against the idea of skipping democracy, of skipping the constitutional republic, of rejecting our founding principles, not because I have any animus towards the president. I do this because I love my country and I want to see the division of power enabled such that it protects us all from the amalgamation of power into one person such that it can be abused. Another name for emergency rule is martial law. Who would want to live under one person? That's the thing we all object to in all the countries around the world that we object to is the idea that they don't have democratic rule.
And by the way, that's the reason why they did the tariffs on Canada, right? To say there's a emergency with the fentanyl coming into our country. Now, the amount of fentanyl that comes in from Canada is not at emergency levels, but that's how you are able to skip the checks and balances of the other branches. And yeah, I mean, look, this is the government runs slow, and that's to prevent authoritarian control, right? That's the checks and balances. It kind of sucks, but it's there to prevent cases where someone's single decisions could really nuke the country. Like if you were going to retire tomorrow and your money was in your 401k, it's worth a lot less. Like say your 401k had $500,000 in it. Maybe you lost $60,000 just yesterday, Maybe over the next couple months, if that keeps happening, it wipes out half of the money that you were going to have. I mean, this is scary times. Now, someone like me, I don't plan to retire for any time soon. And, maybe we can right this ship. But sometimes when you have an issue like this, it can take years to correct. So yeah, I think people are very right to be worried about this. And here is Mitt Romney, again, former CEO of Bain Capital and presidential nominee of his party. Here's what he has to say.
If Donald Trump's plans were ever implemented, the country would sink into prolonged recession. A few examples. His proposed 35% tariff-like penalties would instigate a trade war, and that would raise prices for consumers.
And by the way, Canada just announced a reciprocal tariff to us for any auto parts made here. So you have to understand, other countries can play this hardball with us. And yes, the U.S. has buying power, but imagine all of the Asian countries. Imagine all of the European Union, Canada, Mexico, India. Imagine all of these other places, South America, coming together and not doing business with us. It would absolutely crush our economy to points that we may never recover from. That's a wild time, and we're looking down the barrel of the gun right now. I'll tell you what, we're going to come back, and I'm going to share with you the math, the formula from Bloomberg that they believe Trump used to come to these tariff numbers. It's going to blow you away. That next. And you might say, Dave, isn't this a pop culture podcast? And it's like, listen, there ain't no pop culture. There is no popular culture if we're all living in a depression, right? This is a wild time right now. Here is how they think Trump came up with these fantasy-like tariffs he's mentioning. Have a listen.
You've probably seen this equation quite a lot in the last few hours. It's got, by my count, 5 separate Greek letters in it, and it's what the US Trade Representative's office says it used to calculate reciprocal tariffs on the rest of the world. It looks very impressive because it's in Greek. Ultimately, I would suggest this is nonsense. They are going to divide the amount that a country exported to the US by the amount that the US exported back to them. So, for example, if you sell 70% more stuff to the US than the US sells to you, that's...
All right, so they get into it. It's apples and oranges. None of it makes sense, right? As far as tariffs are concerned, because all of these tariffs are going to trickle down to us, the consumer. We're going to have to pay these prices. And all of that money that comes into the country, what's that going to? The $4.5 trillion that is going to go to the debt of our country, is in part because of the tax cuts to the rich. So in order to possibly pay that off, which they never would, that would be like, we're going to get taxed higher, us, the middle class, and it's going to go to pay for the loss that came in because the rich aren't paying their fair share. This is wild stuff. And we all know it, right? You'd think so, but to those that are kind of just not paying attention, they don't cover it on the day-to-day, maybe they're like, well, if Vietnam charges us 70%, we charge them that back. And you have to go, hold on a second. That's just simply not true. And here's the part that actually pisses me off the worst is I'm going to show you 2 different clips from Fox News hosts that are both basically saying, hey, I'm willing to deal with all of this pain in order for this to happen. And by the way, they're Fox News hosts. They get paid good money. They've got, company health insurance. They're taken care of. What about the farmers? What about the Vietnam vets, the veterans? What about the people that graduated college and they don't have a great job and they have to work in the sort of gig economy and it's not really set up to provide them any social benefits? What about all those people? Have a listen to this.
And he's delivering. And you know what? I don't really care about my 401k today. You know what? Not that I can afford it. Not that it isn't important. Not that I'm not at a point in my life when I should be worried about my 401k, because I am. But this is what I believe. I believe in this man. And I believe that what we're seeing now with his bringing in $1 trillion in business and manufacturing and companies moving back to the United States. And he's delivering. And
this is what's crazy, right? She goes, I don't care about my 401k right now. And that's the problem with this sort of rugged individualism. It's like, it's not about you. It's about my parents that are supposed to retire. It's about your parents. It's about a whole generation of people who have paid into this thing, whether it's Social Security or their 401k. They did the right thing their whole entire lives. And now it's going to get cratered. And for what? This didn't need to happen. It's completely 100% reckless. It is an offensive penalty. It didn't need to happen. Here's another Fox News anchor saying the same thing. Hey, during times of war, aren't we all supposed to come together? And it's like, we started the war. Have a listen.
And those 401k people who are depending, those retirees, all of that, just talking plain speak with them. Look, when this nation used to go to war, people in this country would support the war effort with their materials at home and making things for weaponry and all of that. We got to do 100% buy-in over this bumpy period. Just communicate.
Kaylee.
And those
wild. Well, I mean, wild, right? The brazen privilege that these good-looking people on camera have, right? Because they're just sort of like models that can recite a few lines and read a teleprompter, that they can say, well, this is the time where we all have to just gear down and take the hit. No, it's not, and no, we don't. So there it is, Wall Street's worst day since the height of COVID, and yeah, folks are worried. They're worried about it, and they should be. And, people, raise hell. I mean, what else can you do? Raise hell, call your reps, get out there, shout at some people. And again, best case scenario right now, best case is that Donald Trump made this bloated tariff number so that he could negotiate back down to a lower level. That's best case scenario. That's still not good, because what has helped our country for like the last 7 decades is free trade for the most part. Sure, there's a little tariffs here and there. You can do, they want to give you 3%, go 3% back. But a flat 10%, 70%, 50+% in some of these Asian countries, are you kidding me? How many American companies are closing and shuttering right now because they're not going to be able to afford the margins to fight this? We always know, like restaurants, you got to get through the first 2 years before you turn a profit. So many countries, so many companies are like paycheck to paycheck, right? They can only exist as long as that next invoice comes in, that next check or whatever. And now you've got people that maybe they sell a product for $14 made in another country. Well, now that product's going to be, cost $20, but they were only selling it for $17. So they're in the red. I mean, this is going to happen across so many levels, and it's just going to stifle growth. Inflation goes up. That means interest rates don't go down for mortgages, and then no one's buying homes. I mean, it's a bleak, bleak place. And this is all several months into the presidency. And people will say, well, this is what we voted for. Is it? Is this what you voted for? Well, it's not too late to raise hell and try to right this ship. All right, I got a lot of content coming your way today. It might be a Friday, but your boy's not mailing it in. If you want to throw some bread in the tip jar, patreon.com/Dave Neal. I'll be live streaming in a little bit over there. That's where we have the behind the scenes live streaming chat rooms. You can also join for free the Dave Neal community on Facebook. And I've got like I said, I got a couple other videos, so make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, hit the alert bell, and we'll be live to read that massive court document. Wild times indeed. We'll see you in a little bit. I'm Dave Neal, and this is The Rush.